It is Monday, June 4th at 12:32 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, or 4:15 Coordinated Universal Time, and you are looking at a live view of a flight-proven Falcon 9 rocket on the SpaceX launch pad as it awaits its second launch since landing back in September of 2017. Welcome to today's webcast of the SpaceX SES-12 mission from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. My name is Brian and I'm on the software team here at SpaceX. And the first stage of the Falcon 9 that you see on the pad on the right of your screen previously launched the U.S. Air Force's X-37B, which was an orbital test vehicle that flew from the neighboring Launch Complex 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Now, the previous flight of this Falcon 9's first stage successfully landed at SpaceX's Landing Zone 1 at Cape Canaveral. Now today, that same booster will help deliver the SES-12 satellite to a geostationary transfer orbit, which you'll hear us call GTO throughout the webcast. Now, today's launch will be our fifth for SES. The first was SES-8 back in December of 2013, and the most recent was SES-11 in October of 2017. And of course, the SES-10 mission in March of last year marked a historic milestone on SpaceX's road to reusability when it became the world's first reflight of an orbital-class rocket. Now, today, we will not be making a recovery attempt of the first stage, so we will conclude coverage of the first stage's journey at stage separation. The Falcon 9 on your screen rolled out of the hangar and was raised to vertical on the launch pad early this morning East Coast time. You can see the two-stage Falcon 9 vehicle standing over 200 feet tall on the launch pad, which is about the length of the entire wingspan of an Airbus 380 airplane. Now, the first stage is easy to spot as it has that re-entry soot from the previous launch that you can see at the bottom. The first stage provides the initial force to get out of the majority of the Earth's atmosphere, but unlike our newer Block 5 boosters, this first stage is not planned for additional flights, so SpaceX will not recover it today. However, for this mission, we are flying a Block 5 second stage, and we will of course be following the second stage as it takes the satellite from the edge of space and accelerates to its final orbit. On top, in that 17-foot diameter payload fairing in the center of your screen, is the SES-12 satellite. And the structure behind the rocket to the left is the tip of the transporter erector, or the strong back as we like to call it. Now, this large mechanism transports and supports the vehicle as it rolls out to the pad and goes from its horizontal integration position to its vertical flight configuration that you see on screen. During pre-launch status updates, we like to check on four primary items, and those are the vehicle, the payload, the range, and the weather. Now, regarding the vehicle, propellant loading began for fuel and oxidizer at about T-minus 72 minutes, and an initial go, no-go poll was held at around the same time. The first propellant, which is the rocket-grade kerosene fuel, is mostly loaded onto both stages by this point and is currently being topped off. And then the second propellant, the liquid oxygen, is only partially loaded and is currently in a planned pause while we actually load the pressurant, the helium, to its final flight mass. Once we confirm that we have sufficient helium on board, we will resume the liquid oxygen loading to its final values. So regarding the payload, SES-12 is healthy within those fairings. At this moment, they're performing final flight checks before liftoff, and those are going smoothly. Regarding the range, they are ready to support as always. They usually clear the area around the launch pad, including the airspace and even the surrounding coast. And the fourth item, weather, it was a bit dismal earlier today, but nothing threatening the launch. So with all four stations indicating go, let's take a closer look at today's payload.
Asia Pacific and the Middle East are two of the world's fastest growing regions, where economies are growing exponentially and everyone is driving to elevate their quality of life. People want it all, whether it's seeking immersive video viewing experiences or enjoying top internet speeds at home and abroad. They want reliable mobile coverage as they travel outside of the main cities into the rural areas and to have online information on demand. SES 12 will enrich lives and transform businesses across Asia Pacific and the Middle East. After all, premium connectivity is at the heart of a premium experience everywhere. With SES 12's state-of-the-art wide and high throughput spot beams, you can accelerate digital transformation and extend your vision across these regions.
SES-12 is a really exciting spacecraft. It's a very large and very capable spacecraft. The satellite will be located at 95 degrees east and it will be serving markets which range right the way from the Middle East, right the way through to Southeast Asia and Indonesia. SES-12 will be co-located with SES-8 to reach around about 18 million homes in Southeast Asia. The HTS payload is going to offer full connectivity for the various different airlines and vessels which are traveling along one of the region's busiest traffic areas. It's going to be used by our fixed data customers, which will connect various different offices located all over the underserved areas, and also will be able to offer e-government services for the entire region.
SES 12, elevating experiences today.
At this point, first stage and second stage are almost fully loaded with collectively around 1 million pounds of propellant. We will continue topping off that propellant until about T-minus 2 minutes. You can see on your screen what appears to be that white smoke coming off of the vehicle periodically. That is actually liquid oxygen, which is boiling off as it comes into contact with the ambient Florida temperature around it. This is totally normal, and it's the reason why we continue to top off the vehicle with liquid oxygen until just a couple minutes prior to liftoff. The big milestone coming up is the engine chill at T-minus 7 minutes. That actually just happened 2 minutes ago, and again, that's to make sure that the engines are cold enough such that when really cold liquid flows into them, they don't experience much thermal shock. Coming up soon, the strongback will prime itself with a very small retraction. That happens a few minutes before T-minus 0, and then remember it will recline fully right at liftoff. Now at T-minus 60 seconds, in about 3.5 minutes, the Falcon 9 flight computer takes over the entire countdown. You'll hear that on the nets as Falcon 9 is in startup, and that means that the onboard software, instead of the humans, is in full control of the vehicle. So to recap, the vehicle is green, the payload looks good, the range is supporting, and the weather is ready. So with that said, let's listen into the final minutes of Terminal Countdown.
locks closed out. Falcon 9's on internal power. Close out, Charlie. Falcon 9's in startup. LD, go for lunch.
Minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition. Liftoff.
Downrange. Stage 1 propulsion's nominal.
Vehicle is supersonic.
And we've had successful liftoff of Falcon 9 as it carries SES-12 to geostationary transfer orbit. We're coming up on max Q here in a few seconds. Max Q, remember, as we increase our velocity, pressure increases, but then we're going through less dense atmosphere, so pressure decreases. Everything after max Q means the scarce density is decreasing the pressure on the vehicle. So we're going to come up on a few events here in short succession. It's MECO, stage SEP, and then SES-1. MECO is main engine cutoff. That's when all 9 engines on first stage stop firing. There follows stage separation when the 2 stages gently separate from each other. And then the third event in that succession is SES-1, which is second engine start number 1. We'll see those here in a few seconds.
MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
Good first stage performance.
And we're coming up on the next major event, which is the deployment of the fairings, those aerodynamic shields surrounding SES-12.
FTS is saved.
And the fairings have deployed. So to recap all that quickly, we had max Q, max pressure, and then the main engine's cut off, and then the stages separated, and then we had second engine start. Now this is the first of 2 planned burns that the second stage will conduct. Then the fairings deployed thereafter, exposing SES-12 to space. We don't need that extra mass once we're outside of the atmosphere. We no longer need our aerodynamic shield. Now, a quick note on the fairings. While we aren't attempting recovery of the fairings today, we have been attempting to recover fairings during our West Coast launches. Now, last launch, we got pretty close with the fairing landing about 50 meters from Mr. Steven, which is our catch boat, and we will continue those recovery attempts until we're successful, but not on today's SES-12 mission. So we're going for a few minutes here. This burn is, again, 6 minutes long. We've gone through about 2 minutes of it. So this will continue for another about 4 minutes, and then we'll reach SECO 1, which is second engine cutoff, number 1. And if you're just joining us, we again had a successful liftoff of the Falcon 9. It's carrying the SES-12 payload to geostationary transfer orbits. Second stage has separated and is about halfway through its first of 2 planned burns. It's currently T plus 6 minutes. We have about 2.5 minutes left in this first of 2 burns for the second stage until we enter about a 17-minute coast period. So again, the second stage is carrying SES-12 to its geostationary transfer orbit. 2 minutes remain in this burn.
Stage 2 trajectory continues to be nominal.
Checking in again, we're at T plus 7 minutes. Second stage is still burning. This burn is again 6 minutes in full duration. There is about 80 seconds or so remaining in this burn. Second stage will coast with SES-12 for about 17 minutes before it lights again.
Stage 2 terminal guidance.
Now we've reached T plus 8 minutes. 20 seconds from now, this burn should conclude, marking SECO 1, second engine cutoff number 1.
Stage 2 FTS has saved.
The event got cut off.
And you heard the call out for successful cutoff of the MVAC engine. Now, the 9 Merlin 1D or Merlin 1 engines on the first stage are different than the single engine on that second stage. That second stage engine that just cut off is called MVAC-D because it's designed to function optimally in the vacuum of space. It's housed inside the rocket's inner stage when the 2 stages are still attached, and it's designed to burn for about 6 minutes and can be shut down and restarted multiple times to deliver payloads to different orbits as they're needed. Nearly identical to the first stage Merlin engines in shape, MVAC-D is modified with a slightly larger nozzle to maximize efficiency in low-pressure exhaust conditions like space. So with that shutdown of the first of 2 burns, we're now going to break for about a 17-minute coast, and then we're going to come back for coverage of the relight of that MVAC engine and then the deployment of SES-12.